All right, Dan LaSavage here, Combat Corner Professional. I get a lot of questions about how to wrap hands. I know there's about 2,000 videos on YouTube already on how to wrap hands, but I figure I'd show my way. There's a couple ways that I like to wrap my hands. The first way is just a basic traditional way, but first off is picking out a good set of hand wraps. There's really usually two types of hand wraps that are going to be available on the market. There's going to be a solid weave where it has no elasticity to it, and then a Mexican style wrap which has some elastic to it and allows it to stretch. I always suggest an elastic style wrap. I don't really see a purpose in the older style wraps. I know some people like to use them or like to use hybrids of them. I personally don't, so we only make elastic wraps. We make them in multiple lengths. We make them in 120 inch for kids, and then 180 inch and 200 inch. The 120 inch also work well for people with very small hands or women sometimes, but in general I suggest 180 inch for the adults, and then the 200 inch just gives you a little bit extra wrap if you want to use it for extra wrist, thumb, or just hand support, or even creating your pad over your knuckles, which I'll show in the second version of how I wrap my hands today. So today I got this is a 200 inch pair of our Supreme hand wraps. And I'm going to show you a traditional way of wrapping hands, which first is going to involve me using the actual thumb loop and using the tag that says this side up, where it actually matters on these wraps. So I'm going to start over the top with the loop on my thumb, and then I'm going to keep my hand open this whole time, and I'm going to wrap around my wrist, and I'm going to go over my thumb, and go back around my wrist, and over my thumb again. My hand's wide open this whole time. And now I'm going to go down to my pinky finger, right to my first knuckle on the pinky finger, and I'm going to wrap underneath my hand with my fingers spread. And I'm going to wrap it a couple times there. I'm going to wrap it, say two or three times in that same position. And I'm going to go back over to my wrist, around by the thumb, and then I'm going to start going between the fingers. This time I'm going to go between my pinky and my ring finger, and I curve back underneath of my palm, and then I make a tight fist. This is something I personally really like, is making the tight fist at this point, and then running back over the knuckle, across the wrist, and then across the other end of the wrist, which kind of creates an X, and I'm going to open back up. I'm going to go between the fingers, and I'm open again as I wrap around. Then once I'm back to there, I make a tight fist, and I do it again. And I go back, and I go between the pointer finger and the middle finger, and I do the same thing. That's the last finger, so now I'm going to go directly across the front of the knuckles again. I'm going to go directly across the front of the knuckles one more time. And then I'm going to wrap back across the hand again, and now I'm going to use the remainder of the wrap for my wrist support. I'm going to wrap my wrist a couple times. I'm going to make one more pass on my thumb. I'm going to go back to the wrist, and then I'm going to start stacking up the wrist, which is going to give me some extended support all the way up my wrist. And I wrap tight. It creates pretty much the perfect wrap. You got pretty open palm, make a tight fist. I like to actually tuck the wrap into almost like a grip bar, like you'd have inside of a glove. So you're ready to go here. Got great hand support across the back of the hand. I got some good extra knuckle protection and great wrist support. So that's the standard way I see is wrapping your hands. Now this other way is where you're going to create a small pad that's going to go on your knuckles before you wrap the rest of your hands. The wrap is pretty similar to what I currently just did recently, but what I'll be doing on this one is creating a pad to go directly over my knuckles before I wrap. So I will not be using the thumb hole or the thumb loop. What I do first is I take the hand at where the thumb loop was, and I just take my hand and I spread my fingers, and then I'm going to wrap it a few times. I'll say maybe 7 times. I don't know if that was 7 or not that I just did, but I created a pad now. See this pad? I'm going to take it and I'm going to go directly over my knuckles with that pad now. And then as I'm wrapping, then I got my pad over my knuckles, and I can actually take this and I'm going to wrap over the top and create it into kind of like a pillow directly over my knuckles, and then I'm going to go back to my wrist and I'm going to begin the wrap job just like I did the other one, going around the wrist, through the thumb, fingers spread the whole time, around the wrist, around the thumb, and then I'm going to go back between the pinky finger and the ring finger, or go back over the back of the hand. And do that same thing through all the fingers. I'm going to go back across the knuckles on this last one, creating a nice encased padding over the knuckles, and I'm going to go back to the wrist and wrap the entire wrist all the way up. And now I got a really nice big pad directly over my knuckles. It's going to give me some extra protection underneath my boxing gloves, or if you're using it underneath an MMA glove or an MMA trained glove, you need a little bit extra padding. The cool thing about this too is it leaves less material in the palm, which I like. I personally don't like a ton of material, but I will once again tuck it underneath and create a nice grip bar there. So this is the wrap that I choose to use all the time at this point, and throughout the end of my competitive career, just because of the extra knuckle protection. But both wraps are great wraps. Like I said, these are the 200-inch Supreme wraps, which give you that little bit of extra length, allow you to get this bigger pad over your knuckles. But anything that's 180-inch, 200-inch semi-elastic wraps are going to be what you're going to want to go with. Choosing a good company that has good Velcro and elastic is beneficial, but really just getting your hands wrapped properly is the first step. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to comment on it or shoot me an email at dan@combatcorner.com.